What is going on, you guys? Got another episode of Thinking with Mike coming at you today. And I got Ken Rife with me. It's been a while. It's been months.
It has been a while.
And
my contract ran out, and we had to renegotiate it.
Yep.
So I got a significant, I don't like talking about money coming on these, but I got a significant contract renewal upgrade from $0 to $0.
You wish this didn't cost you money.
0 cents. Nearly a 1,000% increase.
In fact, do you wish that this was $0? Because that would be a contract up. This costs us
Actually,
both
$0
money.
would be a contract upgrade.
Yep. This costs us money.
Yeah. And then they changed the studio on me.
I'm
so
still going to need your input with those bills.
Yeah. That was part of the negotiation as well. We fired the representative in charge of negotiating, which is me.
So here's the deal. The market got busy, and everybody started selling houses, doing loans again. Mm-hmm. And so here we are into the future of the market getting used to high interest rates. And I say get used to high interest because this is going to be the talk of the market, I believe, all summer. Yesterday, the Fed announced that rate cuts, you can forget about them until after the election, which nobody expected, by the way. Everybody had been pitching it, estimating it, that the Fed was going to reduce rates up to 6 times this year. Last Fed meeting, they dropped it down to 3. Now this meeting, it's like maybe.
I mean, I think they'll keep the 3. I do.
So
I do. I don't know.
Here's what I've been feeling. Okay,
Just don't rely on it.
I'm watching the market accelerate, as the spring market does in real estate. And I started to notice this about a month ago, where the market started to clip along, it started to move, and everything seems very, very normal right now. And people have not been asking me about interest rates. They've just been purchasing houses. And we started to see the market accelerate quite incredibly recently.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, with rates where they're at right now, we're still seeing acceleration in the real estate markets. I'm sure we're seeing that more broadly across all the markets. So our Fed data, as far as inflationary pressures are going to go, I don't see how that they would be improved.
Yeah, no, and I would say too, there's this concept of, I don't know if I brought this up in one before. There's this concept called of inertia in the market, right? And for those of you that don't know, inertia, it's this force that we don't see, but we absolutely feel it. Similar to momentum, but there's like this inertia, and inertia is kind of the common feeling. Like there's a dark cloud over the economy, or everything's going great, and we've all felt that at different times in the market, regardless of our own personal financial situation. If you go up to a person and say, hey, what do you feel like the market's doing? Or it's going great. You know what I mean? It's just this idea of inertia. And the market right now it's kind of interesting because it's like an insane amount of inertia in the real estate market. But then there's this brick wall of mortgage rates that's right there. And it's like I feel like there's this competing battle 24/7 between them. And the real estate market momentum is winning that battle right now.
Totally.
Even through all of this, it's like, oh, there's a brick wall there of rates. Like, let's just go over it because we're going to refinance down the road. I don't know when that's going to be. I as a licensed mortgage professional and someone that taps into the market 4 to 5 to 6 times a day, I do not know when the rates are going to come down. But I can tell you that at some point they're going to come down. Now, that doesn't mean 3%. That means 4 or 5, somewhere in that range. But right now the inertia is moving people towards, rates are not, there's nothing positive in the rate environment. And guys, I want to give you a news flash. There hasn't been for 2.5 years, okay? Like, we haven't been like, great rate day. We're down to 6.125. Like, that's still higher than relative. So the inertia of the market is just so much stronger. And Mike, I think, laid out a great point. Like, holy crap, you guys, it is freaking busy out there. Like, we are writing, we have so many different clients reaching out to us. Rates doing this. They don't care. Like, we're past that. We understand this is where we're at.
People want to own real estate.
Yeah.
And they believe in it. And what we're seeing mostly, and I actually disagree with you, like, I don't know. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I'm no longer in the boat of rates will come down, because Why would they? If banks are writing mortgages, they're profitable, and the market's still accelerating, and buyers are still overwhelming supply.
And I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's happening soon. I'm saying in our lifetime, for sure, in my opinion, for sure in the next decade, we're going to see a soft spot in the market. It is statistically unlikely and economically unlikely that we don't see a softening in the rates. And again, that doesn't mean down to 3. I'm saying, dude, 599, there's a lot of people that would climb over. They'd climb Mount Everest for a 599
Let me explain where I'm thinking. So, and this is where my barometer has been throughout all of this when everybody was saying rates are going up, market's going to crash. And I just was a denier. And I've been a denier the whole time. I'm like, it's not about the rates. It's about supply and demand.
Yeah.
And we do not have enough housing inventory, houses to buy. Builders can't keep up with the amount of growing population. And I know we hear headlines of birth rates going down. That's fine, but we have tons of immigration happening. Like our population is going up and we are not building at the clip of our population acceleration. So we have this supply demand issue. And so I don't care if it's rates. I don't care if it's a black swan event. I don't care what it is, unless you have a catalyst to a supply to demand flip.
Okay.
I don't see why we would see prices stop accelerating at the clip they are, because it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
And the only reason the Fed is going to stimulate rates by reducing the Fed rates is to get the market moving again. And so until that supply demand flips, we have more houses for sale than we do buyers, we're not going to see.
But are you
rates correlate.
saying, and for those of you that have watched the podcast before, you'll know Mike and I are no strangers to disagreeing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see the supply and demand issue right now, like the current environment we're in, as what the Fed wants to see right now?
So I think the supply demand discrepancy is going to cause accelerating prices. And so, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
So
that's where I'm saying that's where I think there will be a Fed intervention, because a healthy amount of inventory is that 4 to 6 month number.
I've always been a skeptic of the way the Fed has attacked, trying to attack inflation. By the way, don't believe in attacking inflation. Like, there's too much money in the market. Raising interest rates, this money still has to go somewhere, and it goes into the prices of assets and goods.
Yeah.
So interest rates, I get it. You're trying to slow the demand, but I think you're just spreading out where inflation goes. Like, eventually when you put trillions and trillions of dollars into the spending class, that goes into big business, it goes into assets, it goes into properties, it goes into everything, and that it's going to show up in pricing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with that.
So I got off topic here. So I've always been a skeptic of how the Fed is doing this, because if the Fed wants to fix the supply demand discrepancy with housing, they need to stimulate builders, and they're not doing that. In fact, they're harming builders, and so builders are not being able to do to-be-builts anymore. We've noticed that in the marketplace. We're seeing new construction get all the way to completion without a buyer, and that's been unheard of. So builders are no longer building at the clip that they were, and so our supply demand is getting even worse.
Yeah, but I think a rate softening helps to aid in that to an extent. I certainly do.
Sure, soften rates, but then builders will build like crazy.
Yeah,
but they're part of the free market, and so they're going to maximize their return.
Absolutely.
And so when you reduce interest rates 1-2%, you add gazillions amounts of buyers into the marketplace, and then the supply demand tips off again.
For sure.
Pricing goes through the roof.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think we're in a weird. I will say this: we've not seen a market like this before, and we've not seen one similar to how your favorite person, Jerome Powell, talks about inflation. It's stubborn. It's we've kind of thrown things at the wall, and it hasn't curbed it. I'd say it's a similar conversation about the real estate market, and it's stubborn. And it's hard to change that momentum. And what I will tell our viewers is that's a good thing if you're invested in real estate, is that it is freaking stubborn. Real estate is maybe the most stubborn thing, not only because of the asset class it's in, but the emotional attachment to it. That name any other asset class that you're that emotionally tied to.
Yep.
I can't think of any. I don't care. I don't give a raging crap about my 401k asset. I look at it and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I don't make memories in my 401k. I don't remember going to closing and having pictures taken and popping champagne when I got my 401k. So there's that piece.
Well, that's why the residential housing market hasn't declined like we
It
want
hasn't
it
declined.
to. Because
And that's the thing. People want it to do that.
But
like
they won't.
they want it to happen. And I'm telling you guys, like, it's not.
Homeowners don't chase the bottom of the market for a sale,
Yeah.
right? Homeowners sell their houses because they have something else in mind.
Right.
Like they're going somewhere, right? They're relocating, they're getting something else. So, but that something in mind needs financial resources from that sale. So sellers don't just go, well, I guess the market's slow, I'm knocking it down 10%, 20%, 30%. They don't do that. They just say, okay, we're not going there now.
Right.
So we'll just wait. And so that's why we didn't see prices deteriorate, because sellers have no incentive to just crash the prices of their houses.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
They wouldn't do that.
They
wouldn't
have
do
to.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
Just stay put, or you hold it, put a renter in there,
Mm-hmm.
because they're sitting with 3% interest rates. Their mortgage payments are nothing. You can easily cash flow break even with a renter.
Yep.
And just wait it out.
Yep. I think this is part of a broader discussion of, and really the question that I think is the most relevant and pertinent to our viewers or people that are watching that are looking for advice. It's the number one question I have been getting. And I mean this. This isn't just like, oh, people often ask me. And then it's like, literally no one's ever asked me that question. I just thought about it when I was going to the bathroom. It's people have actually asked me, is now a good time to buy, or should we wait, or did we miss it? Right. And I've always said, and I know this sounds like this is such a baked in cliched answer, but like the best time to buy was a year ago. The best time to buy was, the best time to buy a year ago was a year before that. It's like there's this fear of hopping on the train. Perfect example. Talked to a client last night working with Samantha. This is a client we were engaged with a little over a year ago. Reached out to me. It's like, hey, everything's expired. I know, we got to start everything over. Where are we at for rates? And I was looking back at a text message that we were going with, and we were at like 6.49 back in the day. Okay. And we are not there anymore. And that same home, like style, because I looked back at like some of the homes that were sent, actually like a couple hundred square feet smaller, one less, this whatever, 15,000 more expensive,
More.
10, 15
More.
And
I think
I'm like,
we've seen 5 to 10% of an uptick this last year.
And so then I think people, when I give them that answer, then it immediately goes into, well, isn't that a buildup to a crash? Isn't that a buildup to something happening catastrophically in the market? And I've been thinking about this to myself, in that when my parents bought a house 31 years ago, the house that I grew up in 34 years ago, whatever, that house I know right now is $95,000. We are never crashing back to 95K.
Here's the deal.
It just does not happen that way.
You can answer that question and be like, yeah, this is a crash. This is a crash of the dollar. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the crash of
We're
the
in
dollar.
it.
That's why we're inflation is
about that.
spreading itself out through the cost of assets. That is the crash of a dollar. Don't get that confused with the crash of housing prices. Okay.
Yep.
We're absolutely seeing the price of the dollar crash.
And I think I'm looking for this article, and man, such a good article. And it's actually the Warren Buffett one that we talked about back in the day. And I bet you I'm not going to be able to find it now. Yeah. What it's talking about is, if you are worrying about a real estate crash, what is one of the biggest indicators that the dollar value is going down?
Prices of real estate going up.
Prices of real estate going up.
Yep.
There is a direct correlation to that. And I will cite that source. That is not an opinion-based thing like a lot of the conversation we're having. That is like, there is an actual metric that says one of the better indications of like the value of the dollar. So just know your real estate is going to rise and fall, generally speaking, not exact, but rise and fall with the value of your dollar.
Yep.
If that dollar value strengthens, you should typically see real estate maybe dip a little. I'm going to tell you, I actually disagree with that. I think that even if the value of the dollar 5x's, real estate will be at this price
Unless we have a supply-demand
unless
discrepancy.
we have a builder come in and build 5 million houses nationwide.
Yep.
And they're all affordable. And
That's the number. I think it's between
crazy.
4 to 6 million deficit of houses.
It's got to be.
I think that's what
I
it's
mean,
at right
I would venture to bet that with the number of people that haven't been able to buy over the last few years, even because they've been pushed out,
Yep.
that number might even be higher.
Yep. So
You know, it's crazy.
supply and demand. The only time that you see a crash in housing, which we saw, that's 15 years ago now, okay, was because the banks got all the inventory because there was mass foreclosures because of short-term balloon debt, okay? Short-term toxic debt was
Yep.
rampant, okay? So foreclosure went through the roof. Banks got all of the inventory, and the banks don't care, so they dumped it onto the markets and crashed the market, okay? Huge supply-demand discrepancy because we had the banks flood the housing market with houses for sale, okay?
Among other factors, but yeah.
We are in a season of extremely tight lending restrictions. And so what is it? 65% of houses are paid in full.
Kind of wish banks had a portfolio of homes that they owned.
Dude,
I literally am
no,
like, oh,
no.
I hope that conspiracy theory is true.
The rest of them
I
are
just
on
wish.
like 30-year fixed sub 4%
You'll never move.
rates, and then the rest of them are 20% down or cash. Like that's most of our, like the last 2 years, first time home buyers are starting to come out again, but the last 2 years is 20% down in cash. So I hear stories, this person bought 2 years ago and now they're trying to move and they're upside down. It's like, yeah, because you don't buy a house with a 2-year plan. Okay. FYI, you buy a house with a 7-year plan, you build a house with a 10-year plan. That's the old adage.
And by the way, there are a healthy number of people that bought a house and within 2 years do have equity.
That's
And
how
a
we,
lot.
but we got all disillusioned from
Yeah,
the
we did.
ramp up of
We did.
of the COVID stimulation that caused the inflation, right? So we saw housing prices rocket. So you could move from a house that you own like you could a rental.
Yeah.
Stay there for 6 months and sell it for profit.
It's true.
It's not reasonable, right? We buy houses previously owned. The advice is have a 7-year plan, build a new home, have a 10-year plan. That's what you can anchor like over time, over the last hundreds of years in the United States.
Yep.
That's what works.
Yeah, that's what works.
So anyways, I don't know. I really love the housing market. All this just said, I'm wrapped up. Like I really, really like the residential housing market. Commercial real estate is going to get smoked. Okay. I guess we could get into that. Right now, renters are still seeing the discrepancy of like what your monthly rent is versus what your mortgage could be. And I've been speaking into this a lot lately. Is renters, that's great, but have this in mind. You have about a 2 to 3 year window of this being the case. Okay. And I'll tell you why. So new construction of multifamily, like big apartment buildings, takes anywhere between 2 to 5 years to complete. Okay. So if you've noticed in your local hometown, you're seeing a lot of apartment buildings get put up and get complete and put onto the market.
Yep.
That's what's been causing rental prices to get depressed because all this brand new rental inventory has been flooding onto the market.
Yeah.
Now those projects are 2 to 5 years old. Okay. So look back 2 to 5 years when rates were 3%, 4%. These projects were designed, underwritten at those rates, and now they're coming to fruition now.
Right.
So what we're seeing is permits decline major in the multifamily market, and these projects that are in the planning phases are making the decision of whether they're going to do this or not. And so what we're seeing is a fizzling out of new multifamily apartment buildings being completed over the next couple of years.
For sure.
So when that happens, rental rates, everything's going to get stabilized, and we're going to start to see rental
Catching up to it.
accelerate
Yeah.
after that period of time because that's what the business model is. Okay.
Yeah.
You build an apartment building, you get it stabilized, and then you start pushing rents and you grow the value of the asset. Okay. So that's the business model.
I want to be clear and it's not, this is not a investors are the bad guys in this, by the way. I want to be clear that this is how this conversation goes. One of the first questions an investor asks me or you or any real estate agent that they're purchasing an investment property in is, what can I get for rent now? And what do you think is reasonable to push it up to next year?
You call it their pro forma numbers.
They are literally, just so you know, your landlord, and again, not in a bad way. They like, I would imagine that if you are renting in a house right now from a landlord that just bought that home a year ago, they are losing money on your rent right now.
Yep.
I'd almost bet that they are not cash flowing. They are looking to fairly and accurately and market appropriately raise your rent. That is the goal. The goal is not to stay flat, to be clear. Okay. Yep. So knowing that, having that knowledge, and then knowing that you could own a property with a relatively predictable payment, and you control the up and down movement of that in the form of, if I want to add money to my loan by doing a cash out refi or take out a line, that's on you. You can't control taxes. Sometimes you can't control insurance. You can shop for it. It's just, to me, it makes sense for people that are within, and I'm going to give you a range. If you are within $400 to $500 of what you would spend to rent or to own versus rent, you are in that window of, this is appropriate to look at buying a house instead. Yep. That's my opinion. Yeah,
so you're absolutely right. So like the goal of investors right now is to stabilize your rental income.
Yeah.
Get as close to break even covering the asset as possible so that you can weather and hang on for the next 2 to 3 years. We're waiting for that inventory to trickle through the marketplace. So these new apartment buildings, we're just waiting for them to get stabilized so that rents can start moving up again. So we're just waiting. So the advice is use this time wisely, because on the other end of that, we still have a huge supply demand issue in the residential housing market.
Mm-hmm.
So use this time wisely, take advantage of the lower rents right now. But if you're going to transition into owning, definitely make that transition over the next year to 2 years.
Correct.
So that you're catching that wave and you don't get caught up in a tornado of raising rents, which will happen.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It has to. Like I said, it's the business model. That's the point of owning multifamily real estate, is that you can raise rents over time.
Yep.
And your building becomes worth millions more because of that.
The end goal is, I mean, I know it gets used as an argument, but the end goal is having an investor with a paid in full mortgage or a mortgage payment that's like $1,100. They're getting $2,000 in rent right now because they absolutely can. And by the way, that's investing.
Yep.
That is your investment. If you can get a stock if you can buy a stock that gives you a rate of return of, 25, 18%, like we talked about the other day, it's like, yeah, let's do that.
Well, here's the deal. So get more into the weeds. The point of raising rates or rent is that you can do cash out refinances. Okay. Yeah. And when you cash out refinance, you take cash out of your investment. It's all tax free. Okay. So you buy an asset, it moves up in value over time. Rents are more, so you can handle a bigger mortgage payment. You cash out, you take all of your cash back out, put it in your pocket, and you can go buy something else tax free.
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
So I'm telling you, it's the business model. So like,
that's how it works.
Don't expect rents to stay depressed forever.
Yeah.
It's free market, and it's gonna go up.
Yep. For sure.
All right. Anyways, I don't know. Interesting topic. That's why I changed it up. So we're just talking about things that I think are interesting and not things that I think the listener will find interesting.
Yeah. It's all about us.
Well, I think the things we say are more interesting than guessing what somebody else wants to hear. Does that make sense?
That's a great theory. Yes. What goes on in here is definitely way cooler in here.
I just don't want to guess. Just say things that are interesting to me.
Agreed.
Anyways, guys, if you guys are thinking about moving in the next, 30 days to 2 years, we should get in touch. We'd love to help you out.
We should get in touch.
Yep.
1 year, 1.5 years in advance is not too early.
Nope.
Holy cow.
Nope.
And like I said, working with clients that we've been engaged with for a year and 3 months, and they're coming out going, yep, I did. These are the people, by the way, that did I'm going to wait till the market comes down. And a year later, it's like, shit.
Here's what happens is that when we connect and we engage, we start to explore the market together. We start watching it. Okay. So then this idea that's a cloud in the sky starts to actually materialize, and you can start seeing what it looks like. And that's the major value in that. It's like, okay, I want to move, and this is the upgrades to our life that we want to make. These are the things and the holes that we want to solve. We connect and be like, oh, okay, that makes sense right here. And this is what that looks like. This is what the location looks like. That's what the house looks like. This is what your commutes look like. This is all your improved ability. This is what your school district looks like. So this is what it looks like. And so you can look at that and you can say, oh, that's something to work towards. Or you can say, oh, that's not it. we need to reevaluate, and we can kind of readjust.
Yep.
So it adds the cloud in the sky idea of upgrading your life into like actually formation of like what that actually is.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, guys, thanks a lot. Look out for the next one. Probably another 2 months.
Maybe 3. We got some contract renegotiations to do. Realize we did a horrible job on that. We will be coming back with representation. So
See you guys. Have a good one.
see ya.